And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Two Nobodies Who Know Nothing. This is going to be the last episode. It's December 29th of this year. And Robert and I have been doing this for, god dang, is it almost 3 years, 2 years, 3 years? It's been a while. We've been doing it for quite a while. And it's been fun and it's been awesome. And it's sometimes really cool to, see how far it's come. But if this is your first time joining us, we talk about nothing because we know nothing. And it is a good time. Robert, how are you doing this morning?
It is a wonderful Monday morning. My voice is a little hoarse because every time we change temperature around here, the pollen changes, and therefore my allergies spike. And it's always fun in the runs in the morning when you can't breathe.
Well, I think that it's one of those things that this is that time of the year too. Like, it's my son and my daughter have both been off for a week so far. My son goes back to daycare today, but my daughter has another week off from school, and it seems as though things are running, especially my nose and his nose and all that stuff. And you become a little petri dish when you have little kids, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, we were around my girlfriend's grandchildren, and they were suffering with the little runny nose and stuff. So I'm sure we picked up a little of that juice while we were there.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably COVID, right?
Well, we actually tested. It
Oh, did
tested
you?
negative for COVID. Yeah, we tested just in case.
Yeah. It's
Again,
amazing.
we didn't want to give people. We don't want to spread the love. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it seems to me like every year, like around Christmas time, we kind of get that situation going. My dad's birthday was on the 21st, so we got together as a family that day, and one of the people in our group was not feeling well, and then come Christmas Eve, family comes over here, and my sister-in-law's not feeling good, and then it's kind of like, well, what's going on? We all get a little bit of sore throat, this and that, and blah blah blah, and it kind of passes itself around. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely does. Absolutely does.
Yeah.
So I found this story that I thought would be really, really interesting because we've been talking about, middle class prosperity. We're talking about education. So this gentleman had a family-owned business in Louisiana for approximately 30 some odd years. It was mildly successful, employed a town of about 12,000, employed between 500 and 600. So it was one of the town's largest employers. I think the second largest employer was Walmart. So, I mean, just a big deal in the town. And so they hit it big on a change to AI and in the way that the demands for power. And so they hit it big, and they got a buyout offer of $1.7 billion.
Dang.
And when you're in a town of 12,000, that's huge,
Right.
huge amount of money for a small town. And he did the very unique thing of giving 15% of the $1.7 billion, $240 million, to his employees. Okay. They didn't own stock in the company. He just kind of felt like it was the right thing to do. The people that had been through the ups and downs with him over the 30 plus years. And so he constructed it as retention bonuses paid over 5 years. But basically, if you stayed, you got this. If you were over the age of, I think it was 60. If you were over the age of 60, you got paid your entire retirement bonus, retention bonus up front, and you could retire. But this is what we were talking about when we talked about the fact that the middle class has been hollowed out over the last 30 years. This is how business gives back. This is how the top 10% give back to the bottom 90.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people can pick on the 15% and say it should be more, should be less, whatever. It doesn't matter. The fact that he did it is such a testament to where we should be as far as the division of the spoils between labor and capital. He's obviously capital, and his 600 employees are obviously labor. And what happens in the end was $1.7 billion gets paid all to capital. And of course, that's what's been causing this 90-10 split to become, incredibly high. I saw a revision that the total amount that 10% has taken out of the 90 since 75 now is $73 trillion. Mm-hmm. And that was an update earlier this year. So it is, the middle class has been suffering immensely, as you and I both know. I mean, Very few households can live on one income, which,
Right.
50 years ago they could. They can't. But this is a testament to the direction that we need to go as far as dividing the spoils of what happens between labor and capital. There needs to be a better division because you cannot continue to hollow out the middle class. You cannot continue to tell the middle class they got to pay for child care, they got to pay for this, they got to pay for their kids' education, all this kind of stuff. And you realize that all this is being a burden on them and there's no relief. And there hasn't been any relief for 30 plus years, I mean, since 1975. So this is the direction we need to go. And it can't be mandated because that's more government, big government. It has got to become a norm, the way, capital treats labor.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because you think about like what they consider middle class now too. Like, and when they raise things or when they talk about it or whatever, they don't understand that, there's an amount, a threshold that used to be middle class, I feel like. And I feel like that middle class has become the lower class and the lower class has become, like poverty, like super poverty. Like it's not the same thing. And they tax the middle class and they take all this money away from them in order to pay for that lower level. But they also take that, I have a hard time because they talk about like paying their fair share. But as being a previous business owner, you kind of know how that goes. You kind of understand the difference between what you're paying. And if you're paying, 30% of $1 million versus 30% of $100,000 or 30% of whatever your wage is, that's a huge amount of money. So you're paying a lot of money on top of being the person who has to pay all the other things that go into that. So like your profit may be decent, but you're still paying a ton of money and you're expecting these people to pay more and more. And they have to reclassify that. They have to think about like what should people pay? What is the actual fair share? Because, my dad, when we were growing up, $36,000 a year was freaking awesome. I had a conversation with my wife last night because I am contemplating a lot of things. And she goes, well, why don't you go back to teaching? I'm like, go back to teaching. And then I actually looked at the numbers of like what that would mean for us. And it literally would mean back to the poverty line because I can get a job making $100,000 a year as a salesman that's on commission. But then she keeps going back to, well, you could have a retirement. You could have a retirement. And I'm sitting there going, well, what is a retirement worth when the retirement amount that they're going to give you is not anything near what you can do as a living wage? They're taking your money from Social Security. They're taking your money for taxes. They're taking all this money. And it's like, okay, you got a retirement now, but I have a better chance of if we just live like we make that amount and put this amount away, I'm going to have way more money in retirement than I'm going to have if I go back to teaching. It's one of those things. It's like a give and take. There is no like win for this right now. And they have to figure that out because I know that your generation, because I've heard my mom and dad talk about it quite a bit, doesn't even know if they're ever going to get their Social Security. And then I hear my mom talk about, well, if I wait 2 more years or if I do this or I do that, I'll make another $200. It's like, there's no win in this deal. There's no, Social Security was started as something that has just, it's not the same thing. So there is no, like, middle class is just not where you want to be. And even when you're there, it's not good enough. Like people cannot survive on it.
Well, the Social Security, let's do the math. I actually started getting Social Security 3 years ago. There was the reason for it was very, very simple. So let's just pick a number out of the air, and they're not my actual numbers, but let's just pick a number out of the air and just say that they were willing to offer me at $2,000. But if I put off until age 65, it was $2,500.
Right.
Okay. And so you're like, wow, $500 more a month. That's really amazing. Okay, fine. So let's do the math here real quick. So I'm going to forego 3 years of $2,000. So I'm foregoing, so we get the math right, I'm foregoing $73,000.
Yep.
So this $24,000, basically, in this case, $72,000. I'm foregoing $24,000 for 3 years. So $72,000 is what I'm foregoing now. And again, I'm not betting on how old I am or am not going to be in the end. The gain is I gain $500 a month. So you gain $500 a month for 12 months. That's $6,000. So you take the gain of $6,000 again and start marking it off against $72,000 that I give up in the first 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take you long to figure out 60,000 back. It's going to take me 12 years to get to 72,000 back. So my bet is that I'm going to live to 77
Mm-hmm.
just to break even. That to me made no sense. So I immediately took the money. Again, concerned whether Social Security would be there or not was really not my condition. It was just math. I just simply said, which bet do you want to make? Do you want to make the bet that you're going to live to be 90 and that you're going to make this huge win over the years because beyond 77, so then I'll live another 13 years, so I'm a big winner? Or do I want to bet that I need whatever I get now is going to be greater than the future? Again, that's kind of a really silly bet. To me, it wasn't even a bet. I want the money now.
Well, and the thing is, too, is like that makes so much sense to me just thinking about it, because what's going to happen? Like you said, look at and I'm going to say, I'm no doctor, but I would say you're kind of a specimen. I mean, you work your butt off, you exercise every single day, you're very health conscious and things like that. So for you to say that you're going to live 10 more years, it's kind of like, is that the reality or not? But if you did, say you died tomorrow and you didn't collect any of it, then what did you get? Nothing. And so saying that you're going to live until you're 90 and hoping that you're going to get that, and knowing the reality is that you're going to live somewhere in between what you really estimate and what you think, take the fucking money. I mean,
right.
That money is yours. You paid into it. My dad always tells me, I paid into Social Security before I had a Social Security card or something like that. Like I was born before there was a Social Security card. I had a Social Security number the day that they were allowed. Like Social Security is not that old. And that's what he was talking about, because you have to have your Social Security card in order to do that. And then they start tying all this other bullshit to it. But it's crazy. It's like, to think about it that way, it's almost like I want to just call my mom right now and go, listen, hey, take the money, because you're
Do the math.
Yeah,
Do the math.
It's not that hard. But then there's more to it. People think, oh, well, I'm going to retire and I'm going to have Social Security and I'm going to have health care and I'm going to have this and that, blah, blah, blah. Your health care isn't free when you retire, when you start collecting Social Security. And that's the other thing that she was complaining to me about, was like, there's no, I have to pay for Medicare, and that's my health insurance. So if I don't work and I don't collect insurance, I don't really have a very good insurance, and they don't always pay for it. So the system's broken. And I'm sure that there was, like this guy giving his money away to these people. I guarantee you there were people who were complaining. It's like, this guy has made billions of dollars and still it's not enough to give me. And it's like, why do people want free handouts? Work for it. I mean, that's a very blessed thing for this guy to give people money. It's amazing how that could be a bad scenario for someone.
Yeah, but that's as I mentioned to you, it's not something I want the government to be compelled to do.
Right.
I want the government to incentivize people to do it. In other words, here's the thing: he should have probably had an employee stock ownership program before. Okay, where is the incentive for him to create that for them? In other words, we exist and do things in our culture and as individuals based upon incentives. What is the incentives? Why am I going to eat Taco Bell over a salad tonight?
Yeah.
Because Taco Bell tastes really good. And so, I mean, it's not necessarily good for me, but I'm going to go like, well, listen, I want Taco Bell. What's the incentive? It tastes good.
Yeah.
Right? You're always playing with incentives. It doesn't matter what we're all doing. And the thing is, the incentive to him to give them the $240 million, there really wasn't one. Yeah. Actually, to be honest with you, he was concerned. They were concerned that people were going to sue him for people that had left the company within the previous year because of the timing of the deal.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that you try to do something good and you're concerned about people being angry at you? Like you just said, 15% is not enough. It should have been 30.
I have to tell you, I changed tires for 11 years, and the best place that I ever worked, which I physically cannot do it anymore, and the company has changed quite a bit, but was a company called Les Schwab Tire Center here. Started out in the Northwest, It's funny because Les wrote a book, and it's just a very, he wrote a book in the 80s when people weren't like, now everyone writes a book, right? But he wrote this book about what he did and how he did it. And it was amazing to me, the incentivization that this company had. And every single company that I ever worked for, I try to model, I'm like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Because working on commission, your incentive is to just get the sale, right? And when you take away a parameter from someone, like being able to negotiate the price, because, a lot of times you're going in and your competition can sell for a lot cheaper, right? So if you're 100% commission, you get the sale or you don't get the sale. And I don't care who you are. Grant Cardone writes this book about 1,000 different ways to close or whatever, and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But what it really comes down to is, do the people trust you? And is the value there for what they're looking for? And if your value is too high, that's, I feel like it's like a 60-40. You may be able to win this person over 40% of the time because you're really good at what you do, but the other 60% are just looking for a really good price. And if your price doesn't meet their budget, then they're not going to buy from you. Well, if you don't have any way to negotiate price, then, that's a lost cause. But what I have found is, when I know that my job, or like my paycheck is on the line, I work a little bit harder. Well, when I worked at Les Schwab, Les had this $100 story where every dollar he accounted for where every penny went from every dollar, or every $100. So 15% of it went to your retirement trust. Go find a retirement that puts 15% of your wages in there. And this is not 15% of your wages. Like they just say, okay, you made $100. We're going to take $15 from it's an additional 15%. So you made $100. They're going to give you $15 in your retirement trust, and you take your $100, minus taxes and all that stuff. And then they paid for your insurance, and there was all these incentives to work harder, because if you worked harder at the end of the year, you got a bigger bonus. So the employee bonus was based off the percentage, how many shares you had. So you worked there 1 year, you had 1 share. You worked there 2 years, you had 2 shares. You worked there 5 years, you have 3 shares. So this bonus pool grows and grows and grows based off the net profit. And then at the end of the year, you get a bonus check. So everyone is working hard because they know that they're going to get more money if they do, on top of their hourly wage. And so it's amazing for me to see how incentives work really well, because I will never forget all the incentives I had working there. I just couldn't be a worker bee my entire life. And that's a whole nother psychological situation, because I'm always looking for something more. But the fact of the matter is that people will work harder for you if they have an incentive. When there's no incentive, then what's it matter? If you don't have a reason to do what you're doing, you're just going to just keep doing and going through the motions. And then you start to get a little complacent with what you're doing. It's like, well, nothing's going to change. If I do this job in an hour and it's $100 an hour, or if I do this job in 2 hours and it's $100 an hour, and then you hear that, right? Well, I get paid by the hour, so I don't really care. I'm going to make the same amount no matter what. It doesn't really matter. Then what are you going to do? Are you going to work harder, or are you going to not? And there's too many people in this world, like you and I have this feeling about you that no matter what, you're going to do the best you can. And I'm that way too. It's like, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to treat this company like I'm the owner, and I'm going to work my ass off. But what does it get me? And that's, I think, the hardest part is it's a moral dilemma is, what does it get me to treat this like this when everyone else beside me is not doing the same thing? You don't get promoted. You don't make more money. You don't get anything extra. Then what is your incentive to be better? And that, I think, is the biggest problem, is that we don't have any incentives anymore. It's like, well, if I do the bare minimum and I don't make my paycheck, I can just go collect unemployment, or I can go get welfare, or someone else can pay for my problem, And I think we're losing sight of that.
Right. And the battle is always this. The battle is the capitalist system, where the capital gets the majority of the lion's share, and then socialism, where labor gets the lion's share. And so we're looking at things from diametric extremes, and it's not the extremes that matter. It's somewhere in between is the sweet spot, where capital and labor both are incentivized to make a better product. They're both incentivized to do great things. It's kind of like it really weirdly sounds like dating when
Mhm.
you're past children, right? Because you're not going to raise a family together and you're looking at a dating scenario and you're asking the question is what value does this person bring to my life? And you really are saying, what are the incentives to share my time and to make this kind of commitment to get into a partnership? And the problem in America is, especially after childbearing years, there's not a lot of incentive for people to connect.
Yeah.
Why? Because of the way the way we've structured the system is people don't understand. You've got to bring something to the table and simply say, hey, listen, I'm a great partner. I'm somebody you can depend on. Da 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 da. You look at it and you go, my God, you are a great partner. But other people are asking the question, what are you going to give me to be in
Right.
this partnership? What do you mean? The whole concept of a partnership is we both bring our talents to the table. And if they're a good fit, and that's one of the challenges you've had with finding partners, right?
Yeah.
Is you both got to bring things that of value to the table. And when you see a partnership out of proportion, when it's a 70-30 partnership, you're not happy. You don't stay.
Yeah.
Now, the 30% person's thrilled. They're like, wow, super. But that's back to the way everything is incentivized right now in our system. The system is not incentivized, right? The capital is totally incentivized and labor is not. And everybody's answer is, well, let's bring back the unions. Well, we know that the unions didn't work because they became corrupt. So it's not that unions don't work and collective bargaining, collective action doesn't work. It's the structure we had didn't work. That just means we have to try another structure. But does labor need to act collectively? Well, of course they do. Why? Because again, what did your Les Schwab guy do? He got people to act collectively
Yeah.
by his incentives. In other words, everybody was pulling. We think about that in football, right? 11 guys on the side, offense or defense. If you don't work together,
Yep.
you're toast, because guess what the other team does? They strike at where you're weak,
Yeah.
right? Where you have a mismatch. And so that's the same thing. Your guy basically figured out a way without unions to get everybody to act collectively, all going in the same direction.
Yeah,
Why?
I mean, he created a team because he wanted
Yes.
people to work together, and that was it. And it's like, it's funny because you think about like all the things that happen with a team. Like I started working there, and this sounds kind of, someone will probably go, oh, well, you can't do that anymore. But like, it was kind of like, hey, you're getting hazed a little bit. They're going to run their mouth at you. They're going to work you. They're going to see what you're made of. They're going to try and figure out how hard they can push you in order to get the most out of you, because that's what they want.
Mhm.
And if you're not willing to work your ass off, then you're not a good teammate. And
Mhm.
and that's the thing. It's like an incentive program. To me, like I feel like this, where I've always worked, no matter where it is, no matter what job it is, I'm just a cog in the wheel. Like I'm there busting my ass, but what do I get for busting my ass? Nothing. So why would I bust my ass if there's no incentive for me to do it when Joe Blow is sitting over there doing nothing? Like the installer still gets paid the same amount of money, whether I sell something or not. Like he's installing a job, he gets paid by the hour, he's getting paid. Me, I go out, I work my ass off. The only incentive I have is to put more money in my pocket. That's really it. And they always look at commission as that way, which I think commission is great, but I also think that you have to take care of your employees in some way where you're like, hey, you're going to make this base, but you're going to make this commission. So at least you have something. So then you roll into, like, right now, the big struggle, and this is where I always start to think about finances, is that people are not buying right now, right? So I'm busting my ass out there trying to get what I can, but no one's buying. It's Christmas time. They're spending all their money right now on the things that are important, which is not covering their windows, right? So there's weeks where, like last week, I had 1 or 2 appointments all week, and today I have 1, and I don't have 1 tomorrow. And then it's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and we don't work on those days. And then, New Year's Day fell on Thursday, so we're not going to work on Friday, and we don't work on Saturday and Sunday. So now it's like, it's a scary thing. And so there's no incentive. There's no nothing. Everyone else is making their money with their salary, but those people who are driving all the business and making all the money and bringing in the income have nothing. So
Yeah.
it's
It was
it's a tough
interesting.
scenario.
I got a nail in one of my tires, so I went back to my Firestone. I go to Firestone not for just my tires, but everything. It's a total car care, and I've been taking the car there for a decade.
Mm,
Okay, so I know everybody there. And it's not because they offer the best price on everything, because they don't.
right.
But here's what they always manage to do. Every time I go in, there's some kind of incentive that I get a little benefit from, $10, $50, whatever it may be.
Right.
And when I went in to get it, he was sitting there and saying, and I said to him, "Yeah, no, I know I need to replace the two front tires and rotate and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to do that after the holidays." And he said, "No, we totally understand that." He says, "We know during this time the only people in here are the people that have to be. In other words, the car doesn't run."
Right.
He said, "We don't make our money now. We make our money after April 15th."
Yep.
He said, "After April 15th, that's when we get." And he says, "We've learned the cycle of the business." Well, just like you, there's a cycle to our business. So you have to have people, as you say, be able to survive in the natural down cycle, holiday, whatever it may be. Because if you're in retail, you know, 80% of your business is in the holidays.
Right.
Retail doesn't make any money in those other months. Really,
Right.
seriously, there's very little money to be made. So they know that too. And so it's again part of the planning mechanism that you put in there so that there's incentives to sell and do well in the bad times, but you also got enough to survive.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's always been put back on the, like with commission, like every job that I've ever had, it's always been put back on you. Well, you need to save money. Well, it's kind of tough to do that when you're, living paycheck to paycheck. So it's a tough scenario to make that happen. And that's what gets me contemplating about what I'm doing. Like when she said last night, she's like, "Why don't you just go back to teaching?" Well, I actually really looked into it. I really looked at it. I really thought about it. And then, you know, weighed the options, and I'm not saying that it's not on my mind anymore, but to know that you have a guaranteed paycheck every single that's one of those things, like you look at it that way and you go, well, this is guaranteed money. It's not much, but it's guaranteed, whereas nothing's guaranteed right now. But I also know that I could go today and go make a $20,000 sale and make as much money as I do in one paycheck teaching. So that's in itself is a problem. But those are I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know that I'll ever be satisfied, and I have to figure out in my head, how is that gonna, what is it gonna do for me?
Yeah,
It's a tough scenario.
I get it.
So, well, Robert, it's been a great year, and I look forward to seeing what's gonna happen here in the future. And we're 2026 is upon us. So thanks for being here with me. Thanks for doing this with me. And thank you, Nikki's in the chat room, but there's lots of people who listen to this. We appreciate you being here. Please, if you have an opportunity, go over to Apple Podcast and leave a review. Let us know what you like about the show. Maybe you don't like something, whatever, just let us know. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/Wes Tankersley. And for as little as $3 a month, you can support the show and help us keep this thing going. Robert, I hope you have a great one.
Happy New Year to all. I hope you and your family have a wonderful start to the new year.
Yep. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this year, and we will see you next year. It's kind of cliche, but that is the truth.
Absolutely. Enjoy.